Supersensei here. Welcome to an extremely late Halloween episode. Why is it so late? Well, Pokemon came out, and that got really distracting. But look, a blue shiny Tyrantrum. I love him, he's so cool. That and, the holidays and all that. I was supposed to make it in December for Decemberween, because, Jack Skellington, this is Halloween, but at Christmas, that kind of thing. Anyway, well, here it is, Resident Evil 3, Episode 3. Get it? Episode 3, Resident Evil 3? Yay!
Before we start, I want to add that this video does contain scenes of explicit violence and gore, so if you're not into that, then you probably should not be watching this, even though this is 1999 gore, which is laughable by today's standards. Our quote comes directly from the lead antagonist, Nemesis, and he has the best quote in the entire game. That's all it is. One word was powerful enough for me to do an entire episode about it. Why? Because it meant death was nipping at your heels. Nemesis himself, herself? I'm gonna go with himself, is a terrifying creature that pursues you relentlessly throughout the entire game. He is even nicknamed Pursuer. The name Nemesis derives from the Greek goddess Nemesis, who was the goddess of retribution. In fact, the word nemesis in Greek means to give what is due. The goddess had another name as well, which was S.T.A.R.S, which meant the inescapable. This all perfectly describes our Pursuer friend quite well. He was created by Umbrella in order to get revenge on the S.T.A.R.S members since they were actively trying to destroy Umbrella. Not these guys though. They're dead from the first game. Well, except for Wesker, but that's a whole other story. Nemesis is a Tyrant-class bioorganic weapon, or BOW, that was created using the NEA parasite, which makes him stronger and smarter than other Tyrants of the time. With a very strong regeneration ability, he was defeated numerous times in the game and yet still comes back for more. Kind of like Cell in Dragon Ball Z, and they were both created to get revenge on the main characters. His primary directive is to kill S.T.A.R.S members, which seems kind of silly since he was dropped into Raccoon City way after the T-Virus had already spread. You'd have thought all of the S.T.A.R.S members would have left already. Well, lucky for us, Jill and Brad were still there for some reason, which I will explain. After the end of the first game, the surviving S.T.A.R.S members, Chris, Jill, Barry, and Rebecca decide they need to head to Europe since Umbrella's main headquarters were there. Chris takes off before everyone else, Barry relocates his family to Canada, Jill stays behind in order to find out more about Umbrella's research facility in Raccoon City, and Rebecca goes off to star in the unpopular original books of Caliban Cove and Underworld, and she's never heard from again. Seriously, Rebecca only makes a cameo appearance in Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 6 brought almost everyone back. It would have been a great idea, Capcom. You may have noticed I didn't mention what happened to Brad. Well, after the team gets back from the mansion in the first game, they try to expose Umbrella, but Umbrella had already paid off enough officials to cover up the incident, including Police Chief Brian Irons, who disbands S.T.A.R.S shortly after the events of the first game. Brad doesn't fight the disbanding and disappears, leaving behind his team like when he took off with a helicopter in the first game. Nothing else is known about what happens to Brad up until he reappears in Resident Evil 3, where he is being chased by Nemesis. He comes into contact with Jill and warns her that,
"Listen, he's coming for us. We're both gonna die."
What are you saying?
You'll see. He's after S.T.A.R.S members. There's no escape.
Jill follows him and gets to witness Brad, the Krillin of the group, get owned by Nemesis.
Jill, help!
No!
Wow, that's 2 Dragon Ball Z references so far. Shall we go for 3? After dispatching Brad, that's when we first hear our quote. This is where the game starts to get scary. Run or fight, you get into the police station and he leaves you alone for a bit. After you get some business done there, he breaks through a window and starts to chase you. This is a scripted sequence, much like how the dogs burst through the windows in the first game. But this time when you run into the next room, you are not safe. He keeps following you for a few rooms, yelling stars each time he enters a new room. After a while, he leaves you alone, but now he chases you for the rest of the game. There are some scripted sequences when he comes after you like this one, but he can also pretty much show up anytime if you keep wandering back and forth looking for items you need to progress. Nemesis can follow you into most rooms with the exception of the safe rooms, because the safe rooms are magic and keep monsters away. I mean, come on, they have to be magic, because how else do you get all that gear you left in a box across town suddenly appear in this box here? I think a wizard did it. Skipping ahead, Jill later meets Carlos, has to fight a gravedigger, gets infected by the T-virus, runs from giant spiders, solves the annoying water puzzle. Seriously, what's up with water puzzles and or levels and why do they almost always suck? I'm looking at you, Ocarina of Time. And finally, gets the last part of the game known as the Dead Factory. Really, Umbrella? Dead Factory? That was original. So after Nemesis ruthlessly pursues you throughout the game, it gets to the part where I show a spoiler on the screen and talk about the final battle. After being defeated numerous times, Nemesis has mutated quite a bit, so much so to the point where he can no longer say his catchphrase, S.T.A.R.S. Jill turns the tide of battle, and after she uses the railgun to shoot some kind of Big Bang attack, Nemesis is still not dead. That's when Jill takes his catchphrase and says this.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
What an awesome way to finish off the Nemesis. Jill basically just pulled the Sarah Connor after being chased the entire movie. She gets to finally kill her pursuer and say an awesome line. Jerk? Huh, I just realized Jill was being hunted down relentlessly just like Sarah Connor in Terminator. I wonder if there's more connection between these two things than I realized. Maybe for another time. After Nemesis is dispatched, Jill and Carlos ride in a helicopter conveniently piloted by Barry and fly to safety. Carlos is then never heard or seen in the series again, except for the movies that I never watched. Seriously, Capcom, that's 2 characters that you've dropped from the franchise entirely. Again, it would have been really cool if Carlos was in Resident Evil 6. He could have replaced Piers, so when he died, I actually would have cared. Oops, I forgot to put a spoiler on the screen. Oh wait, it's Resident Evil 6, and nobody cares. Okay, I'll give Resident Evil 6 some credit. It did have the BOW Ustanak that was kind of an homage to Nemesis. Ustanak was never that imposing though, because Resident Evil 6 was a horror shooter, so he was meant to be shot at and defeated. Nemesis, however, starred in Resident Evil 3, which is a survival horror game. You were primarily made to run away from him because he was actually scary. Whenever you heard, you knew you were in trouble. That was a fun, extremely late Halloween episode. Sorry it was so late. I'm going to try and make these more frequent. Go ahead and leave a comment below for a video game quote you want to see on the show. I have more episodes up too, so go watch those. And as always, thanks for watching.